Welcome to SOC Radio and Spirit Weavers. Join us as Jody Whitewolf Morrison shares with us her knowledge, abilities, teaching us how it's done, right here on SOC Radio. Brought to you by spiritualistonline.com.
Welcome. You are now listening to SOC Radio, and this is Spirit Weavers with your host, Jody Whitewolf Morrison. And as you know, Spirit Weavers is dedicated to introducing you to wonderful people who have chosen to live their spirituality based on their actions, their beliefs, their daily practices, whatever it is. And so it's my pleasure this week to bring you another such person. Want to say a quick hi to all of you who are listening in on TuneIn, SOC Radio, or any of the other ways that we have for you to connect, and to those who are in the chat room. So, hi everybody, and glad that you're here with us. My guest today is actually an old and very dear friend. I've had the honor of being able to meet with her and actually stay at her home for a few days. And Ronda Fisher may also be known to some of you as Eden's Light. So, Rhonda, say hi.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome, Rhonda. I'm so glad that we could work it out, that you could be here today.
I'm happy to be here. It's nice to be able to finally connect with you and be able to do this.
It sure is. Rhonda and I used to have coffee in the morning with each other. And then our lives got busy, by Skype, of course. And then our lives got busy, and we haven't had the same amount of time to connect. So this is really a pleasure on many levels for me. Rhonda, you know, I know so much about you, actually, and you know about me, too. So let me just jump in here, and we'll get ourselves rolling. I guess what I always am curious about, because it's not something that comes up in normal conversation, but I'm always curious about, when did you realize that you were somehow different from other people or connected to spirit in some way? How did that happen for you?
Well, I'm going to answer this question in two ways. Number one, I knew I was different as a small child, and also I was unsafe for me to be different. And so because of that, I closed down at a fairly young age, in my late teens. I reopened when I met a medium in Omaha, Nebraska, and she taught me how to embrace my talents and my gifts and how to open again in a safe way where I felt validated and safe. And my abilities have really grown since then, and that's been about 23 years ago now.
My goodness.
Yeah. And that was at the age of 32. I had been closed down for 15 years. So from 18 to 32, I had closed. I still had communication. I still was protected, but I was no longer active, and I was no longer acknowledging. And I certainly didn't tell anybody anymore who I was, what I could do. I would be called to the bedside of somebody. I would go to say goodbye, and they would suddenly be getting up. And so I've always been a healer. I've always known things and seen things, but I haven't always been open to myself.
So it was a thing that where you had to feel safe in you before you were willing to open to spirit.
And it's not that I wasn't open to spirit. I wasn't really, I would say, open to myself because of the danger and the environment that I was in.
Gotcha.
Many when we're young and different, there's an abuse pattern. It's fear. Part of either our parents or our community, and that fear tries to stifle or shut us down. I have learned since then, though, that was in intended to keep me safe. So fear for the sake of safety. It's kind of a funny thought now, though.
And how did that change when you
Um,
met this medium? What changed in you?
what changed in me is that it was recognized and that it was validated, that she created a safe space, and it was loving. It was an amazing, loving, gentle experience. I was
Mm,
automatic writing and flame messages. I know you've seen the flame messages.
indeed.
And when I was doing those, I just could feel so much love and the power and protection from spirit. And this woman kept her circles very, very safe and guarded. And that kept
Hmm.
me safe and protected so that I could open.
And did you find that at that point that you were willing to be more public?
That actually took quite a bit longer because once I started opening up, I started having a lot of past life memories of persecution and execution.
Wow.
Deal with a lot of that before I could feel safe and let people know who I was, where I was. It was in joining SOC after being a part of James Von Prague's chat group. I
Uh-huh.
met who were a party to SOC here, Spiritualists Online, and they brought me into the circle of which you are part, and it was from there that I ended up being more public.
Ah, that's interesting. So
Mhm.
it was having that environmental kind of, I guess, kind of approval and support for who you are that made it possible for you to then open further.
I think it was the circle of potential. People who came to the circle weren't automatically dismissing. They were hoping for the truth and for the possibility of there being more. It wasn't like being in a regular church or a regular, grocery store where everybody's in so much judgment. There was potential, there was hope, there was possibility, and
That's
that's what
lovely.
more safe to come out.
Yeah. Well, I know firsthand that you are um, gifted in so many different ways, or um, maybe gifted isn't quite the right word. Maybe the word is more you have abilities in so many different ways. Would you talk a little first about your healing work?
Oh, sure. Well, when I was a very young child, I knew I was a healer. Um, and I would almost, and I can't do this anymore, but I would teleport to the sick bed of those who were needing assistance. My mother would get a phone call in the morning and say, well, Rhonda was here, and how did she get here? And is she home safe? My mom would, of course, check my room and find that I was there. I don't know if it was a physical teleportation or if it was a spiritual, etheric journey between our two souls, myself and the sick bed. But it was always known. I grew up in the LDS church, the Mormon church, and they had laying on of hands. And so I've
Hmm.
always been able to do that, possibly because of being sick myself. I had gotten healings so many times from the church that it is possible that I learned it from them. I personally choose to see it as a gift from God, in which, in my own awareness, I have expanded on.
How have you done that? In what ways have you expanded?
Well, I got my first Reiki initiation. I've gone to many classes. I got my second Reiki initiation and my master's in Reiki. I can now teach. I'm certified to teach and to do many different healing modalities. One is called quantum angel work. One
Oh,
is therapeutic touch.
uh-huh.
Also, just the ability to give a message through spirit to somebody in the physical to make that connection is incredibly healing. So there are so many ways to do it, whether it's prayer in distance, personally in the physical presence, doing the Reiki or whatever other modality, the counseling. I do a lot of spiritual counseling. And that also, all of these are incredibly healing. We can't limit it just to one method. I also have a set of crystal singing bowls, which when I'm playing them, they speak to me and tell me what is needed for the person on the other end.
How do you define healing?
Healing is to bring together body, mind, and soul. It is not always a cure, but it's an awareness, it's a higher frequency, an awareness, an acceptance, and sometimes it is an actual physical cure. Most of the time, if we are sick in our mind, if we're holding on to anger, to danger, to injury, to anything that is not of a higher vibration, which is love, then we can allow in any number of maladies, any dis-ease, any discomfort, any disillusionment. And when you bring together the awareness of love and you bring that to whatever is out of disorder, creating order, it brings back balance. And so that balance becomes the healing.
You know, that's interesting. I was just going to ask you about the emotional, personal component to all of this. I know that when I'm working with aspiring healers, one of the biggest issues is that they are wedded to results. So if somebody has, let's say, stomach issues, they don't feel like they're successful unless they minimize or reduce or actually eliminate those stomach issues. But it sounds like you see it differently.
Well, I think we would always like to eliminate the discomfort. But in doing so, if we can bring the knowledge of the purpose for the discomfort, why is it showing itself? What is it trying to tell us? If we can bring that to light, it will always bring about a healing. And through participation of the client, the sitter, the patient, you bring about your own healing to the level of your own personal acceptance. But it is through the awareness of what is triggering that upset. Why is it that you get the stomach ache? Is it your anger? Is it repressed emotions? Is it a distant injury that you need to bring and forgive? And once that's done, the illness does leave, even if it has some residual, which you will then have to work on.
And that, of course, can be done at a distance as well as in person?
Absolutely. It can be done at a distance. I would have somebody sit quietly and I could do distant reading on them and distant work. And then I could call them later and tell them what I found, or we could do work over Skype or, of course, in person. And I do all three.
How can, before we go further, since it's come up right now, if somebody wanted to reach you, Rhonda, how could they do that? How can they connect with you?
I am on Facebook, and I think typing in my email address, because it's not a common spelling, is rgrdnprty@gmail.com. If you would contact me through email, Our Garden Party is also the way that is said. That's also my Skype name. So if you wanted to add me on Skype and contact me that way, that would be a possibility. I do take PayPal. And
wonderful.
And that email works for that as well. So I'm easy to get a hold of. So you're welcome to contact me in either of those ways.
Marvelous. Thank you so much.
And add me to Facebook.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking about healing and work that I know that you have been doing quite a lot of over the past years has been working with land healing. Can you talk a little about what you do and why that matters so much to you?
Well, boy, I've got just the God bumps all over as you ask that question, because it's incredibly important. And when we go to a piece of land that we know that is in distress, and so much of our world right now is in distress, and we put our attention on loving it, on healing it, on repairing what is out of balance within that land, we bring about a harmony with angels and with God and within ourselves and any of the other souls that are still there, to work with that land and to bring it into balance, to heal it. And as we do that, all of these circles of healing of the land will radiate out like ripples in a pond. If you throw one rock, you're going to see the ripple effect. But what if you threw 3 rocks and you see eventually those ripples come together? And so that's what really happens, is that we heal one area at a time. And in driving, I would take one route to the location. I usually try to make a very large circle to encompass that area and anchor it back at my home, or anchor it one time into the ocean, or wherever it is that I am guided to use that anchoring point.
And what does that do? How does that help?
It's like tying a ribbon around a gift. Okay, you've gone and you've given a gift to the land, or you've been part of its unraveling of the distress or the disturbance that's within the land. And you, in driving, you intentionally praying on that circle as you go through. And when you reach a point, basically the point that you started in, and you've drawn a big circle around it, it's like tying a ribbon. And all of that energy is tied and is embraced within that ribbon of love to hold in that healing. Imagine a bubble, a very large bubble that you take and you place on the land. It's just as wide, it's just as deep, it's just as high in all directions. And it just brings about a phenomenal amount of healing. And it all is prayer.
That's such a beautiful way to describe it, because in essence, what you're offering is your gift to the land. And this is, this is the idea of this being a ribbon around a gift. That just is a lovely way to look at it.
Yep. It really is. And it's not just me. I get the call from either the galactic or from the Native American groups or from the angels. This is a directed request. And it probably comes from people praying about an area and saying, God, come help me. And God will send one of his people in order to do that work. We are so needed. We really are.
Evergreen in the chat room, Rhonda, wanted to know what the most challenging and most satisfying part of this work for you.
The most satisfying part of the earth work?
Yes.
Okay. When you see down the road, it's normally is not going to be instant. But when you see down the road the rebirth of a land, or the new energy coming out of land that had been so dead before, that is just such an incredible joy to be able to witness. We had a gasoline spill here locally. It was diesel fuel spill, and it was quite large, and it was right next to our very prominent river, the North Platte River. And it didn't get into the river, but it had gotten into one of the small side lakes. And the EPA came out to do testing. The day after the spill, I had gone out. 3 weeks after the spill, they came out and tested, and they did not find any damage.
Oh, how wonderful.
To me, that was extremely satisfying.
Oh, how validating that is.
Mm-hmm. And I did some healing work in what is known as San Bernardino, California,
Yes.
And I had gone to 3 church parishes and basically tied them all together. I was told or instructed to start out at Santa Barbara on the ocean, put my feet in the ocean, get in the car and drive. And when I got back to Santa Barbara to finish and tie it off, to anchor it into the ocean, the cleansing of the ocean ends up clearing the air that's inland. But as I was driving out of this area that was so dense and so dry and hadn't seen any water in 130 days, I asked God, I said, please just show me something. So show me, please, that the reason I came here is at least being heard. And there was a tiny sprinkle. It wasn't a lot, but it helped. It helped me.
Oh, how beautiful.
It helped me to give validation to the work that I was doing, because that was a really tragic week for me to go out there and to see that kind of distress.
Mm-hmm. Was that part of what you would think might be the most challenging for you?
I think so.
Part of Evergreen's question, which you've answered beautifully, is the satisfying part, but the challenging part. What's the most challenging part?
The most challenging part initially was just getting on the road and going, because I do this. It's not like, God doesn't just put the gas money in the bank. He doesn't make for me. I have to go on faith. I have spent the night in my car. I have accepted gas from strangers and food from people that I don't know, and it's the most miraculous and satisfying. I stopped for gas somewhere in Wyoming. It might have been Laramie, and it was a McDonald's next door, and so I went in and I got a salad, and I was just praying while I was eating, and I'm like, God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is one of those times where I had left without money in the bank. And I said, God, if you can get me out of my driveway, I will go. And so somebody showed up at the house with $40. And so I was able to fill up my tank. And so I was getting lunch and filling up my tank. And somebody walked over to the table and said, my daughter just has a sore throat. So there are these apples. Will you accept them? Gosh, I could cry again. And I said, thank you and God bless you. Oh. And it was Jesus saying, I will feed all of my creatures. I take care of my people. And then this beautiful lady, she looked like she might have been Amish or Mennonite, and she had this gorgeous little, almost, it wasn't a Jewish cap, but it was some kind of a cap on her head, a little bit like a yarmulke, but that would have been the masculine. And she was just this tiny older lady, and she came over and she grabbed me, well, not grabbed me, but she touched my forehead and she just kissed me on the forehead and she said, thank you. And she walked off.
Oh, what a beautiful thing.
It was so powerful. And that gave me the strength to keep going forward. Some of these journeys, you're driving 2,000 miles, 4,000 miles round trip, not knowing where you're going until you get in the car. And I have done my share of fighting with God and saying, why can't you tell me where I'm going? Well, because you haven't gotten on the trail. But why can't I know where I'm going or what I'm doing? Because you haven't taken that first step. The first step leads to the first answer. And so if you get the call, take that step, try harder than I did to be in faith. I had a world of abuse in my youth, a world of persecution, and I've had to overcome that. So that has been my challenge.
I can't even imagine the intensity of that journey for you.
I can still feel every moment of it, believe me. That's the same journey too, the one with the, prayer for rain. Just show me any part of it that could have been successful.
That's so, I guess part of what I find really wonderful and really touching is how open you are to seeing these little signs that come along the way that say, yes, Rhonda, yes, you've taken this step. Here's this gift. And then
Yes.
you're left to follow your nose or spirit until the next thing comes in, which leads me to wanting to ask you, you mentioned Native Americans. How did you get connected in that world?
I was sleeping and I was woken and I was being stubborn again. I heard golden eagle, golden eagle, golden eagle, white feather, golden eagle, golden eagle, golden eagle, white feather. And I said, what? And they said, golden eagle. I said, go away, I'm sleeping. And they said, golden eagle, golden eagle. And I said, okay. So it's close to 3 o'clock in the morning by now, and I haven't had any sleep. I got up and I went to the computer and I looked up golden eagle, and I found Chief Golden Light Eagle. And he was going to be having a gathering, a Star Knowledge Conference is the name of the group. And he was having a gathering in Iowa just a couple of weeks from then. And while I was on the computer, I was told to book it. And I'm like pushing buttons in my sleep. I'm like, okay, fine. I contacted a friend who does live in the area, and she said, okay, you can stay here and I'll go with you. And so I didn't have to go by myself. Believe me, I was terrified.
What was scary?
I was going again to a group that I didn't know. I did not have any idea how I would be received. I don't want to be some pompous white girl going to tell these elders, I'm sorry, your chief, it ended up being Chief Red Cloud, has a message for you, and he sent me to give it. So anyway, I took my message or their message to him, and it was received. He looked at me, Chief Golden Eagle, Golden Light Eagle. I said, I have a message from Red Cloud. He looked at me like I was, a nutbag, but he was definitely being patient. I told him, I said, he wants to talk about your shirt. And Chief's eyes got wider and he said, I'm wearing his shirt. And I said, oh my God. And I started crying and shaking and I had to go sit down. I didn't finish the message.
Oh my goodness.
But he was wearing a replica of the shirt. It was a way for me to be introduced to Chief, to further my education in working with the earth, and also introduce Chief to me, because now I am learning from him. I am, traveling where I need to. When I receive information to go somewhere or to do a prayer, I go and do the prayer. When I need extra assistance from the physical, I can feel Chief with me. And I'll just say, Chief, are you there? And he'll, yep, I'm here. Okay, good enough. And that gives me the strength to go forward, because it's one thing to work with spirit, but it's something quite different when you know there's somebody physical who's got your back as well, even if he is 1,000 miles away.
Definitely. It makes, and spending as much time on the internet as I do, I really understand that. That makes total sense to me. And it's nice to know that, others have that same kind of experience, that knowing that, I talk to spirit all day long, but knowing that at the other end of my computer are real live breathing people who have my back, who know what I'm about, and who are encouraging and supportive, and who have things to teach me. And that's, and I have, go ahead. It takes
a little bit of the crazy out of the work we're doing.
Yes, indeed. Well, Rhonda, we're ready for a break. Believe it or not, we're halfway through. And
wow.
And when we return, I want to talk a little bit about star people and about your experiences galactically. So thank you first to those who are listening in on SOC Radio, on TuneIn, on iTunes, however it is that you are with us, and of course to the people in the chat room. So we will see you in just a few minutes.
We are taking a break for messages from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. Jody Whitewolf Morrison will be right back with more from Spirit Weavers. Join us on SOC Radio. Host your own online radio show. We welcome inquiries and ideas for your own show live right here on SOC Radio. Share your knowledge, thoughts and abilities. Bring your ideas to life with us here on SOC Radio and spiritualistonline.com. Or join any of our shows as a special guest, speaker or presenter. Check out the liveliest spiritual chat show, the Spiritualist Open Circle Panel Forum, a monthly discussion show, or the Circle of Mediums, a weekly show sharing spirit messages and teaching all aspects of mediumship and psychic abilities. Or join our Christina on the monthly astrology show. Contact us now at socradioshows@gmail.com. Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our three vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our Spiritualist Online SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our three vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our spiritualistonline.com, Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, SOC Radio brings you the latest and honest news, views and names in the spiritual field. Check us out and tune in to SOC Radio on spiritualistonline.com. Join in the SOC Radio chat room on the website. Advertise with SOC Radio. 10, 15, 20 or 30-second jingles, adverts or promotions, all going out live on SOC Radio. Promote your services, churches, groups or events at the best rates online. Work with us on shows or promotion and you could get your jingles absolutely free. For this and more, contact Julie at socradioshows@gmail.com. Spirit Talk with Julie. Spirits medium Julie Simpson and guests delve into the world of spirit, the faith and the way of life, renewing the movement that brought two worlds together and ancient spiritual beliefs to the forefront of society, proving once and for all there is nothing to fear in talking to spirit. Live in the SOC Radio chat room on spiritualistonline.com or simply listen in at tunein.com and search for SOC Radio. SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our three vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our spiritualistonline.com, Spiritualist Online Network and Lyceum, SOC SOC Radio brings you the latest and honest news, views and names in the spiritual field. Check us out and tune in to SOC Radio on spiritualistonline.com. Join in the SOC Radio chat room on the website.
Lynn Salong Smith, and I'm an intuitive shaman, amongst other things. I'd like to welcome you all today to my very first
SOC Radio welcomes you back to Spirit Weavers with Jody Whitewolf Morrison.
Welcome back. This is Spirit Weavers on SOC Radio with your host, Jody Whitewolf Morrison, and my wonderful guest today, Ronda Fisher, also known as Eden's Light. And Eden's Light, before I ask you about your galactic experiences, I want to know more about how you got the name Eden's Light.
I was in James Van Prague chat room, and people couldn't understand my name. Our Garden Party is spelling Our Garden Party with no vowels, which is also my email, my Skype name, my PayPal. It's everything that I'm connected to. And they said, well, it's too hard. I said, okay. And I went into prayer, and I went to God, and I said, so if that's not my name, or if I need to have a different name, what will it? And they said, well, we call you Eden's Light. I said, well, that works.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was definitely a gift, and it was through prayer and meditation. And they just said quite simply, this is what we call you. You're welcome to use it.
Oh, that's actually, believe it or not, how, or similar to how the name for this radio show came about. Eric Lynn, who's a marvelous medium, has as a main guide Teddy, who is a character and just a wonderful, wonderful entity. And one day, Eric and Teddy and I were having a conversation, and Teddy told Eric to tell me that he had a new name for me. And I said, oh, I'm always interested in perception, especially when it's from spirit. And Teddy said, Spirit Weaver, because you weave together different elements of spirit and you're not wedded to just one way. So I understand that it's almost magical, isn't it? When spirit
really
gives you a gift like that.
Yes.
So question then, you mentioned galactic a couple of times in this time we've been together. And I wonder, when I first met you, that was something that drew me so strongly to you. But I don't know much about how that was initiated in your life and what it's meant to you, where it's taken you. So would you talk a little bit about your connection to the sort of larger universe?
I don't really think I know how the connection began. It was just part of my learning process. And as the Ascended Masters came in, and then I was introduced to another group. I think it began with Ascended Masters, went to the Angels, and then I was brought in with the Galactic beings. I found a deck of cards, a Pleiadian card set, a homemade deck out of a lady had done out in Denver, Colorado area. And when I started using the deck, I got a guide with it, a teacher, and she's from the Pleiades, and she asked that I be an emissary or an ambassador to the Earth and to the Earth people from the galactic, and from their perspective, that I be able to speak on their behalf for those who weren't able to either understand or allow for that. And it's a way to build a bridge between us and them. And they are here to help us, to support us, and to make sure that we really do not destroy our Earth here.
And are you in frequent, or how does the communication work between you and specifically the Pleiadians?
The Pleiadians, there's a certain vibratory frequency that they will send out when they want to contact me. There is high over our home here in North Platte, Nebraska. There is a ship that they keep stationed here in protection of us and our family. Also, it's for the whole earth. It's not just for me.
Right.
When I need to contact them, I don't know how often I actually need to initiate that contact. They'll just give me updates here and there. If I start worrying about something like this silly Kim Jong-il, or then they'll come in and with reassurances. When things get a little bit crazy in the world news, then they'll come in and say, don't focus so much on that, focus on the love. And then my focus on love will help support all of the people that I come into contact with and keep them out of fear. Once we go into that deep fear, it's going to be much harder for us and for them to work with us here. When we focus on something, we end up enabling it or creating it within our own lives. So you focus on love, you create more love. You focus on fear, you create more fear. You focus on negativity, you're going to create more negativity in your own life. And this is one of the things that they teach us, along with the Ascended Masters.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new thought, and I haven't brought it fully around, but there are those who say that some of the angels are actually galactic beings from another planet, another source. They still serve God. They come here to serve God and help mankind. So I'm still working within that myself. I haven't gotten it solidified or figured out the nuances.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that's kind of unfolding for me right now, that some of the helpers that we've relied on for eons and eons of time are being acknowledged. They came here with wings. If you are somebody who is more religious, you would have read Ezekiel and talk about wheels that turn and go whence they turn. And so they're talking really about ship.
Yeah. And is this connected in any way, do you think, to the shift in energy and vibrational frequency that the Earth is experiencing?
I think
therefore most of us?
I think in some way it is absolutely connected to the shift, because we need to come to a vibratory frequency in order to get through that. And the more of us that can raise our vibration, that can accept the assistance and that can weather the storm and stay awake and alert to get through it. We are here to help our families through it and our communities through it. We're not going to have to lose everything this time as we go through this, but this is truly a cycle that the planet has gone through, just not to this extent with the human manipulations.
So your perception is the planet is, we've been here before.
I wouldn't say here, but the planet has gone through cycles of time before, yes. And if you look at any of the ancient prophecies, you look at the Hopi prophecies, we're in the 5th cycle, and we've just completed our 4th cycle. Well, the first cycles would have been, if anybody's familiar with Gilgamesh, the story of Gilgamesh actually talked about the flood. And that was thousands of years before the biblical flood. That flood is referenced in all of the teachings from all of the religions throughout the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been one of the first destructions. The first destruction was by water.
And do you know much about what happened after that?
Through the Hopi prophecies, they were given a second chance, and each time we've been given a chance, the world's fallen deeper and deeper into the forgetful stages. This time we are not going to forget. We are not going to be wiped out. We are going through it as a race together with the planet. And this is the first time any planet, from my understanding, has gone through this. So this is new, and we are ahead of schedule, and we're doing incredibly well.
That is amazing. You know, somebody in the chat room just said that she had been told once that she was connected to the, how do you say it? I say it incorrect.
You want to say please, Pleiadian.
Pleiadian. It's the A part that I keep messing up.
Pleiades.
There we go. Okay, Pleiadians. So
Yes.
that makes me wonder, are there other, I guess you'd call them star civilizations besides Pleiadians?
Yes.
And
we have Arcturians, we have Syrians, we have Venusians. I'm sure there were Martians. I don't know any. Some know of the Greys. They had a contract here with the Earth government to do some scientific studies. That contract has expired, and most of the people who were in those contracts have since ended their contracts. I believe there are very few still under contract with them. And I don't know any of their specifics.
Go ahead.
The Anunnaki, the Arcturians, the Andromedans,
Wow.
Yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot.
And is there some kind of a federation which links these together?
There actually are several federations. There's the Galactic Light Federation. There is the Federation of Light. They may or may not be the same because I hear them said differently. I don't know if that's going to be a language variation from each of the groups or if it's an actual difference. There's also a Galactic Alliance. And it kind of seems to me almost like a hierarchy. So that when you go to the Galactic Alliance, it would be an alliance of galactic nations. And then they have the federation that they will answer to. And so it's very much a government within a government of a higher government system, but they are governing all planetary structure within our galaxy.
And how would one know? I'm assuming that many, many people have had connections to star nations and may or may not be aware of it. How would they know if they were connected in that way and with which particular ones they were personally connected?
I believe that they would know if they asked. There's a certain, our military has a policy, completely at odds with what I'm discussing here, but they have a policy of don't ask, don't tell. Well, if we don't ask, they are not allowed to give us information. So it is by asking that you receive.
Isn't that the way things work? It works that way in manifestation. It really
Absolutely.
does.
So if you want to know where you're from, there are many, many, many people, especially Native American, who believe that we came from the stars.
Yes.
Okay. We came, those would have been the seed races. Those would have been the spirit that infused the physical body here. The body is of earth, the soul is of the heavens. When we come here, we have a specific alliance or a natural draw to a certain star system. And if you look up and you say, oh man, I love Orion, and I just am so drawn. When Orion is out, I can't stop staring. Then you're going to more likely be from that star system. Me, when winter hits, I love to stand out under the stars in the Pleiades. I believe that I have both Pleiadian and Syrian ancestry, because as we come down the line, you know, most people are not of just one race anymore. not just one DNA construct, but we have the English, we have the French, we have the Spanish, we have the African, the Native American, we have the Indian, the Italian, we have everything. The German, there are so many things that make us up, but each one of those would have come from another nation, a star nation.
I got it. That makes that I find that really a fascinating concept. We have another question for you from the chat room.
Okay.
And Evergreen is curious about this. What would you recommend, Rhonda, for people who are really having challenges with the current energy, the intensity of the current energy?
Focus on something you love. Focus on the love of it, not on the fear of losing it, but focus on the joy, on the love, on the appreciation, on the gratitude, and focus on the light. When you're focused, you can only have one focus at a time. Either you focus on love or you focus on fear. If you're focused on losing something you love, then you are not focused on love. You are focused on the fear. You're focused on the loss. You're focused on not having. So you're focused on lack. You want to focus on joy, on beauty, on love, on gratitude, on any of the great things of God. Focus on how beautiful the earth is. Focus on the stars.
And to go back to your earlier stories about your traveling and gifts coming your way, like the apples and this wonderful woman, does the focus on gratitude and love invite more of that into your world?
I believe it does. What you focus on, you get more of. When you focus on prosperity, prosperity isn't only money, but it's gifts of the giving kind. It's focus. It's a hello from a stranger. It's a hug from somebody that just says, wow, there's something about you. May I hug you? And that's a heart of another, and you get to share that with them. If you're focusing on what you don't have, then you're going to have less of it. And if we're going to go into manifesting and miracles, you have to focus on the awareness that it is a possibility, not on the, oh, that could never happen. You have to be in at least some portion of allowing for the possibility to even exist.
It's kind of like the person who asked that question, Evergreen, said, that was wonderful and thank you. I guess what I'm prompted to ask you about is more wisdom, more advice. Obviously, from what you've just said, focusing on the great things, joy, prosperity, gratitude, love, especially love. That's powerful, powerful stuff. And many people right now are still struggling with the increased intensity, stuff happening that sort of unexpected things happening that are difficult to handle. Do you have any other words of wisdom?
Not quite sure where your question is coming from, but if they're looking at world events, I would say turn off the news, turn off the music. I guess I would really want to know where's your question coming from? Is there a certain area you're looking at?
No, I think it's more in general. Some of it is world events, some of it is personal, physical issues, a lot of illness, a lot of people leaving the planet.
Yes,
some of it
there is a huge amount of people leaving the planet right now. Remember, though, they have free will and they were contracted to be here for a certain time. We are on that time now. Some people are going to stay, other people are going to go. A lot of my teachers have been leaving this last few months, which is very, very interesting. I'm not focusing on the loss. I'm focusing on the lessons that they gave us. I'm focusing on the joy and the laughter that they shared while they were here. I'm focusing on the love that they were offering and how many people were able to receive from them. When I am not feeling wonderful, I try more to take better care of myself. If my knees hurt, I give them a nice little rub. If my feet hurt, I like to massage them and soak them and take care of them. If your body is calling you to pay attention to it, then pay attention to it, but don't go into the fear. Every twinge is not going to turn out to be a cancer.
Right.
But once you add that fear to it, you invite that in. So I would say don't focus on those negative possibilities. Do go to the doctor if something is a concern. Yes, deal with what is in front of you. But if it's just something that you can easily take care of by being more gentle with yourself, then by all means do so. Take a hot bath, detox regularly, Epsom salts, additional magnesium, take your vitamins, get good healthy food. Drink lots of water. And if you can drink some water with some lemon, add some cucumber, anything like that to nourish and replenish your system, then do that. Stay out of fear however it works for you. And just bring back beauty, bring back joy.
I really like the focusing on what's right in front of you. But that leads me to ask, believe it or not, my final question, because we are almost out of time. My final question has to do with the fact that you are a medium. So you are one who is really aware that shedding our physical body certainly does not mean the end of our existence. Does that help you when you see that some of your teachers are leaving, family members and friends are leaving? How does being a medium assist you?
Well, being a medium does not release or reduce the amount of pain when we lose someone close to us. You have to go through it. You have to remember that they were here, that they have chosen to go home. There are many times when I'm actually jealous because I can't go with them. I think sometimes that's why I get more upset about it. I know for 2 specific occasions that was the case.
Yes.
And I think for some of us that is also going to be the case. It's number one, we're going to miss them, yes. But boy, it would sure be nice to be, not to have all of this pain and duality and trial and questioning. But boy, what a wonderful ride we're on, and what a great time we get to have. And look at how many people we meet, and look at all that we get to do. How do I, as a medium, when my most recent teacher left, he was a Native American. He's Chief's brother. His name was Blue Star Eagle, or Elk Man. And he came and showed me a whole bunch of bonnets, the Native American headdresses with all the feathers, and there were all these bonnets. And then his face right there in the upper right corner of all these bonnets. And all these bonnets were empty. They were the chiefs of the past. And he has dropped all of his headdresses, all of his ceremonial gear. And he just was shining a beautiful light and laughing. And it's like, wow, I had so much joy in seeing him that I can't necessarily see him as gone. Yeah. Although when I think of his brother, I do have some heartache that goes out to his family, and I try to lift them up in prayer. Our prayers are actually for those who are left behind. They're not for those who necessarily have gone on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I know that when I lose people who I'm connected to closely, I have these 2 different feelings, one of which is just this great joy that they have evolved onto the next step on their own journeys. And then the personal sadness because there's a them-sized hole in my world that I have to learn to live with in some way.
Right.
So, Rhonda, this has been absolutely wonderful. Before we close off, I'd like you again, if you would, to share your contact details so that those out there in our listening audience who've been touched by your words can reach you.
All right. My email is ourgardenparty, drop all the vowels, at gmail.com. It comes out RGRDNPRTY at gmail.com. I can be reached on Facebook, email, and Skype with that address.
That's wonderful. Thank you so very, very much. And I want to affirm something that's been implicit, and that is that this is not only about us and our evolution. It's what we learn and what we practice, and increasingly on the planet. But it's also about, as we raise our own vibrational energy and our own understandings, it's what we offer out to the universe. It's not a one-way street.
That is correct, and thank you. Thank you for having me, Jody.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to thank everybody who's listening on any of the various ways. Please go to spiritualistsonline.com and you can connect with the radio schedule. There are all sorts of wonderful shows coming up, including on August 27th, some time with the Horsefly Chronicles, which is going to be an ongoing weekly show and should be just amazing. So thank you all, and may you all have a blessed and marvelous week, and we'll see you here again next week.
You have been listening to Jody Whitewolf Morrison, Spirit Weavers on SOC Radio, brought to you by Spiritualists Online Network and Lyceum at spiritualistsonline.com. Thanks for listening. SOC Radio aims to provide a wide range of hosts, shows, views and opinions while endeavouring to maintain our three vital principles of openness, honesty and integrity, covering all aspects of spiritualism, mediumship, healing, personal and spiritual development for all faiths, religions and walks of life as a way of life. As part of our